Great. Shobi. Shobi to start now.
One moment, please.
Yeah.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, assalamu alaikum. Good evening, good night, or good morning to you all. We are pleased to have people in this meeting from all over the world in different time zones. I am Shobi Ali, an Indo-Guyanese living in London since my childhood. I have studied Caribbean culture and indentureship for my recent BSc Social Sciences degree. This is the 182nd edition of our Zoom public meeting. We wish to sincerely thank all of you who have contributed in whatever way to the success of this ongoing Pan-Indo-Caribbean and Pan-Indian Diaspora global project. For an impressive 181 unbroken continuous weeks, we have been here every single Sunday. In the past 3 years, 9 months, and 1 week, we have featured 768 presenters from all parts of the world, speaking on 181 topics. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a weekly forum being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Centre, legally registered research and publishing company operating since 2010. In order to continue this weekly program and make it bigger and better, we are asking please for your suggestions and volunteers as well as donations. Please contact Dr. Mahabir for details on this. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we hereby call for the end of the war between Israel and Palestine, which has so far claimed over 18,000 lives and counting. We hope this violence must end and must be resolved peacefully. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator this evening tonight is Shalimar Mohammed, the co-director of this Zoom platform. She is a business teacher and a researcher from Trinidad and Tobago. She obtained her master's degree in business psychology from Franklin University in the USA. Shalimar, welcome. Please take over from here.
Thank you so much, Shob. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Namaste, and a very warm welcome to all of you. I want to say thank you so much for choosing to be here with us. And I just want to add to what Shobi said just now. While we are mourning the losses that are taking place in the Middle East, we're also celebrating with South Africa. On November 16th, South Africa commemorated the 163rd anniversary of the arrival of Indians to that country. So congratulations to all of their descendants. About today's meeting, it will take the usual form of a panel discussion followed by questions and comments from you, members of the audience. The entire program should run for just about 2 hours. We are recording live, and the recording will be uploaded later on YouTube permanently for posterity. We are also live streaming on the YouTube channel of the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center, so welcome to all of you on YouTube at this time. To avoid intrusions from trolls, Robin Ramsing, our IT manager, has muted everyone. Speakers, please do not admit anyone, do not unmute anyone, and do not allow anyone to share your screen, please. Thanks so much for your cooperation. Today we are talking about language survival in the Indian diaspora. The survival of traditional Indian languages in the Indian diaspora reflects a poignant narrative of cultural resilience and adaptation. Heritage languages, whether Bhojpuri, Hindi, Urdu, Tamil, or others, underwent a transformation, embodying a bridge between the past and the present. They serve as conduits, preserving familial ties, cultural traditions, and a sense of identity across generations. They act not merely as linguistic tools, but as custodians of a rich tapestry of history, literature, and values, fostering a profound connection to one's roots. To what extent has the loss of heritage languages in diaspora countries, such as in Trinidad and Tobago, disconnected descendants of the indengers from their Indian roots? Let's hear the thoughts of our speakers, and we begin with Dipti Agarwal of India. She's submitting her PhD dissertation to the Hindi department at Delhi University on indentureship and Hindi writings in Mauritius, Guyana, Trinidad, South Africa, Suriname, and Fiji. We have a pre-recorded video to share with you because it is past midnight in India this time. So Robin will bring that to you now. Please, Robin.
Namaste, Sitaram, to all of you from the globe. I, Deepti Agarwal, here presenting my topic, Hindi's past, present, status and future prospects in Guyana. Hindi is the main language of the Indo-European family. In 2019, the 22nd edition of the World Languages Database Ethnologue reported that Hindi ranked third, spoken by more than 615 million people in the entire world. Hindi is spoken all over the world, even in Mauritius, Guyana, Trinidad, South Africa, Suriname and Fiji, etc. There it is called generally Girmit Hindi. Now, what is Girmit Hindi? When indentured workers or Girmitias from India went to different colonies, they spoke Hindi and that Hindi was called Girmitia Hindi and it has become a technical term. One special thing about Girmitias is that whichever country they went to, they took their language and culture with them in their Jahaji bundle. The Hindi of these Indian workers and the language of the colony to which they went got mixed and their mixture structurally remained Hindi, but its nature and form changed completely. Now we talk about Hindi in Guyana. The interesting thing is that I first came to know about the name of the country Guyana in my childhood by classic work Godan of Premchand. The main character of the novel, Hori's son Gobar, leaves home due to family rift. People start saying that he has either gone to Marich country or Damrara. His mother Dhania says, इस तरह कोई घर से भागता है और कभी एक चिट्ठी तक ना लिखी. कोई कहता था मिरिश टापू भाग गया, कोई डमरारा टापू बताता था. Till that time it was not known to me where the country Mirich was and which country Damrara was. Damrara or British Guyana is a small country in South America which became independent on 26 May 1966. Now the question is how Hindi came in Guyana. In 1833 the slavery system came to an end. 1834 laborers from India were sent to Mauritius for 5 years as a new system of slavery. After the success of the migration of indentured laborers, the British government also implemented this system in Guyana. In 1838, indentured laborers from India were sent to Damrara, the province of Guyana, by the ship Whitby for 5 years. In that ship, there were 414 workers, most of them came from Agra, Awadh of the United Provinces, Bihar, Bengal and Madras. After that, many laborers came to Guyana from India. When these workers went, they considered their language Hindi, Bhojpuri, Awadhi as their identity, and due to the inclusion of Guyana's language Creole, the indentured Hindi of Guyana started being called Guyani Bhojpuri. Initially, the laborers were not familiar with the name Bhojpuri. They called it Hindustani, Hindustaniya or Hindi. Its status remained inferior to standard Hindi and they kept calling it Purniya Hindi or Tutal Bakha and considered standard Hindi Khari Boli as grammatical. The relationship between Guyana's Bhojpuri and standard Hindi has been one of linguistic duality in which one language is used formally and the other informally, that is colloquially. Linguistic structure of Guyana Hindi was the vernacular Bhojpuri remained the everyday language of Indian workers in Guyana until 1920. Surendra Gambhir, based on conversations with elders during his field work in 1977-80, describes how fruit and vegetable sellers used to make noises. Kela Kino Kalkatta Wala Gari Dudhya Nariyar ke. Another example of how Girmit labor spoke Hindi in past. For example, in Guyana, at the time of Pindadan, he used to say, Ar Ganga Par Ganga, Behri ka beta Ram Baksh ka pota Pinda det, Ganga Mai Bujbuji det. Another example, हिंदुस्तानी में ऊ लोग कहे कि बुखारा लागल है बुखारा ओके उसीन के एक बर्तन में कर देवे और एक पीड़ा पर बैठा के और ऐसे ब्लैंकेट उड़ा देवे ऊपर ऐसे बस बुखार नस में हुई तो सब पसीना में निकल जाए. Although Hindi is rarely spoken in Guyana today, there are many Hindi words in the vocabulary which have mixed into the life of Guyana as lawa, bhat, sekwa, roti, paratha, chokha, dalpuri, bhaji, maje, bele, bhuje, Vishnu, Siu, Ganesh, Ram, Kisan, Parvati, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Jhandi, Prasad, फगुआ, दिवाली, माटीकोर, द्वार पूजा, कन्यादान, छेके, तिलक, आजा, आजी, नाना, नानी, हेंगस, छूछी, नथिया, तिलारी, भरवा, दोगला, चमार, अबीर, अतर, भोग, बिंदी, etc. In Guyana, the development of sequence of Hindi teaching start with the elders of the house. When workers from India came to Guyana, they included tulsi, mango, jamun seeds along with them, and they also had brought gutka of Ramcharitmanas, Hanuman Chalisa, etc., and had sown the values along with the seeds in the land here. Through religious stories like Ramayana, etc., the elders used to teach Hindi to the children in Baithaka in the light of debris during holidays at night to preserve their language and structure. Now systematic Hindi teaching started in Guyana. Canadian missionaries started teaching Hindi systematically. Arya Samaj also contributed in the propagation of Hindi in Guyana. The Hindu Religious Society was established in 1921 and Kumar Maharaj Singh inaugurated the Hindi school on 30th August 1926. Some institutions like Tagore School, Hindi School, College, Indian School, Gandhi Organization, Central Arya Sabha, Arya Pratinidhi Sabha also contributed in the development of Hindi. In 1955, the Indian Cultural Council sent Mahatma Singh as a Hindi teacher. They had established an Indian Culture Center in which, apart from Indian music and dance, Hindi language is also taught. Hindi organizations like Gandhi Youth Organization run Hindi language teaching classes. And Guyana students aged 5 to 80 years also come to study Hindi. They sang Hindi flag songs, Jai Hindi Ja Bhasha Ma, Tu Hai Desh Ki Asha Ma. The origin of Hindi literature in Guyana started from oral tradition. During his research, Ved Prakash Vattuk recorded approximately 900 folk songs with the help of people from different areas of Guyana. जब हम पहुँचे कलकत्ता बढ़ गई दुखल हमार, जब लेल हमार कपड़ा सुन्नर उतार, माला और जनेऊ उतार. Another example, हम झुकावत है सर उस बाबन को जो कथा सुनावत है, जो सिखावत है हमका पूजा संध्या और हवन, प्रणाम उन बाबन को जो बनावत इह अहा मंदिर, बचावत है ऊ सबको जिनको बरगलावत इह मिशन. Since not much literature has been composed in Guyana, and apart from this the availability of what has been composed in Hindi is also very less. Only a few names are available, such as Pandit Ramlal, Pandit Hari Prasad, Pandit Koopchand, Dinanath, Shivratna, Dr. Satish Prakash, Randal Booty Singh, Brahmachari Shubhanand, etc. Finding Damra Fag Bahar of Lal Bihari Sharma, published in 11th February 1816 from Bombay during my research, was a great achievement. Lal Bihari Sharma was the first person who gave written form to Hindi literature in Guyana. It has been translated into English by Kumar Rajiv Mohabir on the suggestion of Goetra Bahadur. A copy of it is kept in the India Office, British Library. This book is in Devanagari and was first published in India. The book is valuable literary archive of the Indo-Caribbean and rare because it is very difficult to find self-written evidence of indentured servants. The book is full of holy songs. Apart from Radha Krishna, he also shown Shiv Shankar playing holy. For example, Shiv Shankar खेलत होरी समाज बनाई, डिमकी डिमकी डमरू कर बाजत तन तन भृंगी बजाई. Lal Bihari Sharma was unhappy with the condition of workers in Guyana, and in his book he explains, बुक लियो है निकाल पहुंचा कुलियों में जाए, काम लिखत बनाए सब देख देख के. Like Tulsidas, he starts the book by praising God. Shri Ramchandraya Name, Ath Damra Rag Bahar Prarambh. In his book, he wrote verses like Bhajan, Doha, Chopai, Ulara, Chautal, Savaiya, Kabit, etc. लाल बिहारी नाम है, रहे डमरा के बीच, काम रहे सरकार के, संग रहे नहीं नीच. Apart from this, whatever Hindi literature written in Guyana was found, it was found in standard Hindi. For example, the name of Randal Booty Singh comes in, who in his poem hails the victory of Hindi in Guyana. आलोकित है हिंदी का सूर्य गयाना में, जागो प्यारे सूर्य देवता को कर जोड़ो. Another important name is Pandit Ramlal, whose poem are Jatan Karle Manwa. By writing poetry in Hindi, he documents his indentured life, migration from India, exploitation, preservation of culture and language. Are Jatan Karle Manwa, Manu Jatan Pai ke, Kalkatta छोड़ा मद्रास छोड़ा हमारा मुल्क अपनाई के कुली नाम धराई के. He also wrote him सो सुख नहीं अमीरी में ओम भुजन में तत्पर रहियो पाओगे सुख भव तेरा. Similarly, another name is found in Pandit Koop Chand. His poem is हिंदी सीखो हिंदी बोलो आओ बच्चों हिलमिल गाओ रक्षा करो ईमान की. हिंदी सीखो हिंदी बोलो यह भाषा स्वाभिमान की. At present, Hindi speaking has almost died out in Guyana. They either speak English, the official language of that country, or speak Creole. But it is not that Hindi is dead in Guyana. It has only declined and needs to be revived because Hindi is prevalent in religious rituals, chutney songs. At the same time, during my stay in Guyana, I noticed that Bollywood songs are played in all the public vehicles. All the youth sing Hindi songs, dance to their tunes, but at the same time, it is also true that they do not know the meaning of those songs. Hindi bhajans continue to be played in shops and temples. Chutney music songs are full of Hindi words. At present, the condition of Hindi in Guyana is worrisome. Most people in Guyana have a misconception that there is no economic benefit from learning Hindi. Hindi is spoken by very few people, but it is also true that many Hindi words have mixed into the everyday language of Guyana. They are used in the puja recitation. Parents mostly name their children in Hindi only. The Indians are here like India, Hindi films and TV serials. Hindi songs are very popular here. While giving information about the teaching program of Hindi Prachar Sabha, Varshini Udo Singh of Guyana says that a 5-tier Hindi examination is organized in the month of August in which Child Sense 2, Child Sense 1, Child Sense 2 start entry vocabulary for nursery school children. There are so many Hindi institutions in Guyana like Hindi Prachar Sabha, Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Arya Pratinidhi Sabha, Indian High Commission, Indian Cultural Center, Pandit Council of Guyana, Sanatan Dharma, etc. And they are engaged in teaching and propagating Hindi. Hindi is taught to the students of Guyana at the Central Hindi Institute run by the Ministry of Human Resource Development also. The reason for the decline of Hindi in Guyana are as follows. The first reason was that the Hindi Indian workers going to Guyana were able to speak their regional language but also understood standard Hindi but could not write the dialect well. Standard Hindi was grammatical and his Bhojpuri was grammarless. The second reason was the feeling of respect for standard Hindi in the mentality of Indian workers and an inferiority complex towards their own dialect. Creole and English were dominant in Guyana under British rule and by the local people. Lack of Indian Hindi education in schools and greater inclination of parents towards English was also a reason. Future of Hindi is declining in Guyana, but it is not dead, and there will be a difference between dead and decline ways. The future of Hindi in Guyana can be bright and it can be rejuvenated because, like the islands of the Caribbean, chutney music mixed with Bhojpuri, Hindi, English and local dialects is in full swing in Guyana. Guyana song like Gyani Babu, Chal Gaye Nana, Samdhin Teri, etc. are a mixture of Creole and Hindi languages. For example, everybody come on, let's us rock the party, Chal Gaye Nana, Chal Gaye Nani, Chal Gaye Mausi, the whole family. During my visit, I experienced that the people here enjoying singing Hindi words and phrases again and again. See how examples of chutney music, Jhandi song. Shiva me took a jhandi to reset the kundalini, so I pull out my patra and check her chakras. I pull out my janev and jap for Shanidev or pray to Mahadev. Kaise bani, fulori bina chutney, kaise bani. Everybody knows this chutney song. You have seen in the chutney music songs of Guyana that there is abundance of Hindi words like Nana Nani, Kahan Chale, Mausa Mausi, Jhandi, Kundlani, Janev, Fulori, Jap, Chakra, Chutney, Pujari, Mai, Aja. They sing Bollywood songs and bhajans although they do not know the meaning of that songs. When I told the meaning of the Hindi songs, they admire it and they all said they want to learn Hindi to enjoy more the films and songs. Here are some suggestions to improve Hindi in Guyana. Hindi should be included in the national curriculum for nursery to university level. The government of Guyana should take responsibility for the training of teachers. The government of Guyana considers Hindi as an O-level subject. Varshini has sought help from the general public, from the promotion of Hindi. There is a need for the good English teacher who can teach reading and writing in Hindi. We need modern, effective and scientific means to speak and write Hindi. Specially prepared textbooks are required for Hindi. International funded needs for Hindi and culture. The script of textbook should be in Devanagari along with the facility of translation. Hindi teachers, websites and Hindi software should be available free of cost. Ramcharitmanas, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata and we need Hindi text and storybooks in Amar Chitrakatha. Along with these suggestions, some of my suggestions for the development of Hindi. The government of India and the government of Guyana took serious steps for the development of Hindi and invited trained people from India to start projects for the promotion of Hindi. Chutney music should be promoted and new songs should be composed which contain abundance of Hindi words. The new generation should be encouraged to develop interest in Hindi literature and visit India. Indian business should be promoted in Guyana. Indian High Commission and cultural centers can promote Hindi. The government of India should increase its grant for these works.
Every change takes time. The willpower must be strong. There is very possibility that Hindi can flourish again in Guyana. I have full hope of this. Jai Bharat, Jai Guyana, Jai Girmitiya, Jai Hindi. Namaste.
Hello.
A very well-researched and revealing presentation there from Dipti Agarwal. Unfortunately, we're unable to interrogate that presentation. She's not with us. And again, it's because of the time in India. But well done, really well done. So thank you so much to Dipti Agarwal. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll bring our second speaker now. And this is Satya Dutt. He's in New Zealand, but originally from Fiji. He is the National Coordinator of Hindi Language Week celebrations in New Zealand. He's the president of the New Zealand Hindi Teachers Association and an advocate for the teaching of Hindi and other heritage languages. Welcome, Mr. Dutt. You can go ahead.
आप सभी को मेरा नमस्ते बोला विनाका in New Zealand Kiorana. My Satya Dutt, I'm Satya Dutt. I'm very happy to present on the 182nd public meeting of ICCR. I will just play the This is just the introduction, and then I will start off with this is the abstract of my presentation. So I'll just go very quickly to the background of the Indians in Fiji and in New Zealand. There are 319,400 Indians at present residing in New Zealand. They migrated from India to Fiji during indenture system, and on 14th May 1879, the first ship Leonidas took 522 Grimitias to Fiji, and a total of 60,695 Grimitias were taken to Fiji. And then from there, we, as my fourth generation, we migrated to New Zealand, and as a matter of fact, there are so many thousands of Indians migrated to all the other parts of the world as well. So there, Fiji, where I'm born, and I have migrated to New Zealand, and New Zealand is my new home now. In New Zealand, we've got Hindi Language and Culture Trust, Teach Hindi, New Zealand, and New Zealand Hindi Teachers Association. These are the three organizations which we are working with and to promote Hindi language and culture in New Zealand. Hindi Language and Culture Trust was established in 2009, Teach Hindi NZ in 2013, and New Zealand Hindi Teachers Association in 2017. all those people who are on the stage here are teachers in New Zealand or from Fiji and even from South Africa as well. And we formed New Zealand Hindi Teachers Association. Now, our vision is the trust will facilitate quality teaching of learning of Hindi language in different centers. And this is our vision. Yeah, you can read on the slide itself. It's non-profitable and we promote Hindi language, celebrate Indian culture, and foster language cultural diversity, provide a platform for international links and cultural awareness, and connect to roots to be confident and competent, and be proactive in maintaining our language and culture. Can't move forward.
Mr. Dutt, can you please speak a little louder? Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you can't hear me? Okay, I'm coming with closer.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's not moving forward, something.
Can you go back?
Let's see. Maybe I'll just go. Yeah. Let's start over sharing again.
Good idea.
So just getting some problem. Yeah, oops, was there. Participants. Oh.
Would you like us to share it?
This is the one, and then share. I think let's see, start. I think we are there now again.
Okay.
Right, there we are. And then let's see if we can move forward. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
And these are the 15 trustees which formed the Hindi Language and Culture Trust of New Zealand. And at present, we have 8 trustees who are running the trust, and together with administrative officer and publicity officer. And just last week, we had a National Hindi Language Week celebration from 6th to 10th November. And there were national program coordinators. We had school-based programs, and we had quiz, we have coloring, and we had national speech and Diwali speeches, essay and cultural evening. We had all these programs on Zoom, and since the COVID last 3 years, we've been running this on Zoom programs, but it has been very popular when we were running the program on face-to-face platform. So these were the dates where we had these programs. And we run those programs in 4 categories. That's in early child education, ECE, primary school, that's years 1 to 6, and intermediate school, that is year 7 and 8, and high school from year 9 to 13. Normally, for each of those programs, we run a competition, and the first prize getter gets $50 plus trophy plus certificate of participation. Second gets $30 trophy, certificate of participation, and a third one gets $20 cash prize together with a certificate of participation and a trophy. So this year we were not able to do that because the participants were not that many. We just had little over 100. So what we did was that we gave as an award for participation $20 per participant and plus trophy or plus certificate of participation. And we also had a Radio Apna National Diwali Speech Competition under 15. There was a 5-year program. And then we had the prizes there, like first prize, $500, and second prize, $250, together with certificate of participation and trophies, and $25 to all the other participants. And we have finished with this 5-year contract, and I'm negotiating with other radio stations over here so that we can get this program back on air. We're at the school where I am teaching. We had Hindi language week celebration together with Diwali, and these are some of the photos that we have taken, the activities. We could see this, the Pacifica students are there as well with our Indian students performing on the stage and doing the activities. And this is in the hall when we had the assembly, right from year 1 to 8, participating in the cultural performances. This is the staff sharing the food as we have, and also you see that they are in Indian costume. They love dressing into Indian costumes. Our Pacifica colleagues as well. And you see in the middle over here, this is the principal of our school. And we have Papatoetoe High School, which is the first school in New Zealand, which started teaching Hindi in the mainstream school at year 9 and 10, where we operate for most of the time from. And this is like blueprint, strategic action plan, working framework for what we stand for and what we want to achieve. We are liaising with individuals and of Hindi and other languages stakeholders throughout the nation, facilitate development of Hindi curriculum document in accordance with the New Zealand curriculum framework, and coordinate with agencies for funding and other resources, and so on. The big picture is to provide the opportunity to know their heritage, learn Hindi language and culture, and connect to roots and be confident Hindi learner and global citizen. There are the mainstream schools and community schools which are teaching Hindi. Community schools, we have 11, and mostly these schools are teaching Hindi language and culture, music and dance on Sundays. And there are about 64 teachers who are involved in that, and 25 administrators. And around approximately 252 students are involved. And they put in about 121 hours of work weekly. And the overview of teaching and learning and assessment of Hindi, it is just similar to the other languages over here in New Zealand. The Pacifica languages such as the Tongan and Samoan, Kukalan languages, which are the indigenous to the Pacifica people over here, that is being taught at school and at NCA level, that is a national educational and certificate achievement level. And we are working towards that to bring Hindi there as well. So our trust, Hindi Language and Culture Trust of New Zealand, is working hard with the agencies and the other schools and among the communities to see that we have Hindi language coming up in the NCA. Why learn Hindi? This is all very obvious reasons. Long-term aims and objectives is there to advocate and promote Hindi language and culture in New Zealand, particularly in wider learning communities. And services and programs that we have, as I have mentioned, about National Week-long language celebration, meeting with government ministers, member of parliaments, committee leaders, and other stakeholders, having workshops and so forth to bring about the awareness and bring about the communities together. And reaching out and networking with wider communities. This is how we are doing. We have coordinators about 12 coordinators all throughout New Zealand, in different parts of New Zealand, like in Whangarei, Invercargill, Waikato, Palmerston North, Auckland, Whangarei, and of course the main streams as well. And also with some other language agencies as well. Now, financial support, how we are able to run our program is single individual donors, and there are donors sponsorships coming from business houses and also the Indian High Commission. The principles of learning new languages is just all critical things over here. Why should we learn new language? Importance of learning language, as it is in the Pacifica Education Research Guideline, language must not be a barrier to participation of Pacific people in research context. Therefore, researchers fluent in the research groups languages. This is like a critical for any language over here in New Zealand, and we are part of that as well. Languages in school curriculum, all students benefit from learning another language from earliest practical age. Such learning broadens students' general, this is all critical things. And students will be able to choose from a range of Pacific Asian, and why we are saying that we would like to bring in Hindi language into New Zealand curriculum framework. Languages in the school curriculum, the New Zealand curriculum framework, and that is promoting learning languages as an area of curriculum that is important to the country's health and growth and so forth. New Zealand curriculum framework, and the student benefit from another language. Report on Hindi curriculum. It is designed to be engaging, forward-looking, and inclusive, will affirm New Zealand biocultural heritage according to New Zealand curriculum framework and learning. These are the contents for the curriculum development that we are doing. We have just done about 5 to 10% of the work that we need to do. And these are all our topics that we will be getting onto the curriculum, including the curriculum. And this is a very hard, mammoth work ahead of us, and is very challenging work, as we lack in resources to do so in terms of expertise and in terms of monetary funds as well. Reference, point of reference, we are getting Samoan, Tongan, Maori, and Chinese, and even Fijian language into context as well. Hindi cluster, this is another project that we are going to take, where we see there are more Indians residing, and the schools are there. So we are creating 3 clusters. This is Papa Tote cluster schools, and there are 13 schools in that. And this is Flatbush cluster school, where I belong to, and there are 12 schools in that. And this is Mount Roskill cluster schools, and there are 11 schools in there. Now, Ministry of Education, NZQA, New Zealand Qualification Authority, and National Certificate of Educational Achievement in its standard. We want to bring all this over there in New Zealand. It's not happening overnight. It will take quite a long time to come to that stage. Media promotion and advocacy. We have all these things going on, and even there is Hindi national anthem of Fiji, which is in the PowerPoint and could be played sometime. And I'm going to get onto some of the clips of the photos of our celebrations groups quickly. So the students are engaged into activities, into teaching and learning, participating in the cultural events, meetings. These are the bottom of their trophies we have for the speeches, as we have the speeches running in 3 categories. That's a primary, intermediate, and high. And they are all awarded with trophies, first, second, third, and they also have trophies, or token trophies given out as well. That's meeting there and the celebrations going on. meetings, and we can top right over here. We could see the speakers over here. They're posing themselves with certificates and trophies. Bottom left, we've got the trophies in there. These are the celebrations going on and people meeting. Our flyers goes out to the public. These are the flyers going out to the public. Our banner and teacher and parent voice. And in the hall, as we all stand and we always play the three national anthems, the national anthem of India, national anthem of New Zealand, and national anthem of Fiji whenever we meet at a national level. There are more photos coming in.
Mr. Dutt, can you make your closing comments, please?
Yes, I'm about to finish there now. And there we got these awards given in the recognition by Srimati Sumitra Mahajan, Speaker of Lok Sabha. And also we were awarded with Indian New Zealand Award on 25th June 2019. Of course, this is our Varnamala in Hindi. And Dhanavad, and I come to the end of my presentation. Namaste, Bola Vinaka, and Kia ora.
A very commendable effort there, sir. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you, if you have a question for Mr. Satya Dutt, please raise your electronic hand so that we'll allow you to ask your question. Thanks. Mr. Dutt, how common is it for one to hear Hindi being spoken in everyday life in New Zealand?
At schools, schools are like English medium, and of course, not actually no place for Hindi, but like where my colleagues are there, we are interacting and speaking Hindi to each other wherever possible. But coming back to the community and the students and the children, mostly in their home environment, they talk in Hindi and they greet each other in Hindi. And mostly when there are prayer gatherings going on at mandirs or temples or homes, and when there's a puja and prayer gatherings, that is a time when we talk in Hindi. But most of the time, we are all English-based.
Okay, I see. So you mentioned that the number of participants are declining. How significant is that decline?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen that, those schools, the community-based schools which are running Hindi classes, when it comes to the students at lower levels of schooling, like year 1 to 6, and even as far as year 8, they are regular coming to school and learning Hindi and music and dance. But when it comes to like going to high school, they just drop out from there. The reason that mostly that we find out there, they get too, switched on to their studies, academic excellence, and also the shyness that they get away from learning Hindi and the music and attend the classes as well. In my own cultural group, we had those students and our children at younger age, they would play harmonium, they will play the musical instruments and be part of the group. But as they grow up, they're meant to just get away from that. And this is the place, is very challenging to get them back.
Okay, well, I wish you success with that. Let's introduce you to Dr. Kogi from South Africa. She has a question for you. Go ahead, please. Kogi, please unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening, all. It's actually lightning and thundering at the moment, but I'm going to be very quick with my question. Mr. Satya Dutt, can you share any light in terms of the other Indian languages like Tamil and Telugu and Urdu? Because, we have some of these languages in South Africa. And so I just wanted to know if you have those languages as well, where you are, and what's the status?
Yes, as far as Urdu is concerned, there is an institute called Urdu Hindi Association, which is promoting Hindi and Urdu over here. But when it comes to Tamil and Telugu, I'm not aware of any association or any organization which is promoting these languages. But there are very few people who are able to speak these languages. Even we have, Tamil and Telugu origin people from Fiji and even from South Africa over here. But I don't see them, hear them speaking. And yeah, that is like probably the same as back in your country as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kogi, and thank you so much, Mr. Satyadat. Very interesting presentation, and we really appreciate all that you've shared. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Namaste.
Namaste. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring on our third speaker now, and this is Dr. Balasubramaniam Chandra Mohan of England. He's originally from India, though. Dr. Bala is a senior research fellow at the Institute of Commonwealth Studies in the School of Advanced Study at the University of London, and it is our pleasure to welcome him.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to base some of the points I'm presenting today on the basis of some of the research I carried out, and also on the basis of some of the conferences and things I organized at the Institute of Commonwealth Studies. So what I from the two previous speakers, one of the things that we could see is that there are different areas, different languages, and so when we are talking about language survival, we need to talk about more than one language. And therefore that's the sort of starting point. But then there is also another aspect which we need to see, which is how does Indian diaspora stand in relation to other diasporas? And I'm speaking from the point of view of the situation in the UK and in many other places as well. So in other words, the very fact that the definition of of diaspora needs to be clarified. And that would also help us to look at some of the issues that come up in practice. So the idea of diaspora, the basic idea of diaspora, starting with the Jewish diaspora or African diaspora or Irish diaspora or later Indian diaspora, one thing common to these different areas is the question of unfreedom, that the migration took place in conditions which were not free. So it is in a different type of circumstances in which this movement from the home country to another country took place. And this, in some ways, is a factor that we need to take into account when we are talking about the language survival. Now, in terms of language survival, we also need to take into account, because the reason why I stress the background under which the migration or the diasporic migration took place is that we need to look at the people who migrated. In terms of, I did some work on Tamil diaspora, or rather the Indian diaspora, which went out of Chennai or Madras port. So not the Calcutta, but the Chennai port. So looking at the push factors and pull factors that that resulted in a migration to South Africa and other places where Tamil or Telugu is a major diasporic language. So one of the things which we need to take into account is that in terms of migration, the people who went, we need to look at the literacy levels of the people who went. And when we look at it, then you find that what they carried was mostly a spoken language, not so much a written language. The written culture was limited to a specific castes or groups which followed or to some extent went on the same ships. But so we need to look into, in terms of survival of languages, we need to give a little bit more flexibility in terms of our expectations, whether we should look at survival in terms of written language or a spoken language. And the spoken varieties have traditionally been given less prestige or less attachment. And therefore, one area where this question being addressed by the center, Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center, could look at is the role of spoken language, the role of non-literate migration. And it's not in any way belittling, but I'm only taking circumstances into consideration. So maybe some research could be looked at what sort of spoken language survived and why chutney music is popular, but not maybe a written text. And in the case of New Zealand, again, in terms of why at a particular point the children drop off and what it means in relation to survival of languages. The situation is not dissimilar in other areas. So I go to my second point, which is language survival, variation, spoken variation, but also the question of why a spoken variation or a spoken variety could be more useful in terms of propagation, in terms of whether a spoken variety gives greater affiliation, greater assessment, greater attachment and identity. Now, for example, there's quite a bit of research done in the UK about, say, for example, language code switching and code mixing. So in other words, mixing one code, linguistic code, or one language part into another conversation. Now, one case, for example, is the use of question tags. Like question tags are usually used to affirm a certain relationship with the speaker. So you could always say, oh, it's a horrible day, or the weather is really bad, isn't it? Or something like that, where you have a piece which is a suffix, which would then try to, you affirm something through that particular extra bit to the sentence. And this is very significant in terms of language survival. There is a lot of evidence to show, particularly a study by Ben Rampton on the use of Punjabi, and then you find the younger speakers would have a sentence, full sentence in English, and then would add hi now, isn't it? So they would use that particular word, the suffix, the question tag, in order to establish that link with the other person. And very often this particular link is used within a specific linguistic community. So it could be used in Punjabi, and similar things can be used in Tamil and other languages. So we need to look at some of these ways in which the language survival is taking place. It may not take place in terms of the full language, full sentence, grammatically correct sentence, but it could take place in terms of oral tradition, in terms of specific parts of language where the linguistic survival takes place. And this again explains why chutney music is more popular, etc. As I mentioned, whether it's in South Africa, whether it is in, I've done some work on chutney music in South Africa, but also in other parts of the other parts where diaspora live. And the third point, which is again with which I want to end, and then maybe take questions, and then that can bring out some more points, is the question of agency. In the sense of policy and agency. In terms of, we're talking about what are the policies of the host government or host situation or host circumstances. Which languages are encouraged, which languages are discouraged, so to speak, not in a very conscious term, but also in terms of actual use. In what domains is the diasporic languages used? Say, for example, if you take the UK, sort of public sector, things like in the National Health Service, some instructions in the hospital, etc. So some of the public service areas, you find other languages being used, including Indian languages. So which are the domains in which the language is being used, and what can be done to increase those particular domains. And that is a question of the policy. That's a policy decision, and there could be some initiative which goes into the area of what one might call agency, or what action do we take, what action, how can we promote, what what initiatives can we take. In this area, I think, there are some of the challenges, which is the drop off at a particular stage, primary to secondary, or secondary to further studies. And to some extent, the parental motivation to enable the children to continue is again to be looked at. How far do they think, erroneously in many ways, that learning a heritage language would somehow intervene in their academic progress, or will stop them from getting the high grades that are needed for some of the courses. So this particular aspect needs to be looked at from a parent's point of view. And so in terms of policy and practice, I would look at ways in which the policy has to be looked at, but also the practice in terms of initiatives should be looked at. In terms of policy, there is also the question of how these languages are seen in relation to other what are called autochthonous minority languages. That is, languages which have come up within the country, but then they may be a minority language. Say, for example, Welsh in the UK is an autochthonous minority language, and some discussion about how, when universities and higher education institutions define modern foreign languages, the foreign languages that are talked about are French or Spanish, or to some extent now Chinese. But those modern languages do not include in that particular definition whether it is Punjabi or Tamil or Hindi. So there is also a need to have that sort of an advocacy where the foreign languages are defined in more specific linguistic terms, rather than as a continuing tradition where some are privileged. So in the Institute of Commonwealth Studies, we held a national level seminar looking at modern foreign languages in the modern Commonwealth foreign languages. So the idea is to bring into debate the question of how we define foreign languages in relation to whether they're diasporic or whether they're autochthonous or local languages. So for the sake of, for example, in the case of New Zealand, we could think about that particular relationship between Tonga, for example, Tonga and Hindi. And then in that sense, there's a need for advocacy, there's a need for new initiatives which will target policy in relation to the government policies or local government policies, or in relation to practice, which is much more self-directed within the community. I'll stop here and we'll take questions, and then I can elaborate on these points. Thank you.
Excellent, Dr. Bala. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question or you have a comment for Dr. Bala, please click on the reactions button at the base of your screen, and then there you will see a raised hand icon. You can click on the raised hand icon, and then you'll be able to, we will call upon you to ask your question. While we wait for members of the audience to do so, Dr. Bala, I just want to throw something out to you for comment. Do you think perhaps the situation with the loss of the traditional Indian languages, which we call the heritage languages, in the diaspora might have something to do with the fact that India has so many English-speaking people? I think is English the second language of India?
That is true. There is that's the point with which I started in terms of how the diasporic movement was very much rooted in the relationship with Britain. In other words, it was a part of the globalization of the empire of the British Empire. So there is a particular reason why English is the dominant language both in India and also dominant in an official sense or in terms of practice, and also in the diaspora. So in many cases, it is one language that actually links different communities as well, and particularly when there is a sort of a secondary migration or a tertiary migration, say for example from one Caribbean island to another Caribbean island, or one Caribbean island which was ruled by a particular by England, but also they shift. There's sort of shifts between who was controlling which island, and also the indentured labor themselves moved to different islands, for example to Martinique. And other French-speaking areas. Well, initially they might have gone through a British background, but again we have to take into account that Pondicherry, which was a French colony in India itself, was also in some ways not in a very systematic way, but also was exporting is the wrong word, but also facilitating the movement of people. So we need to take into the account the background in which English becomes the dominant language, and that carries on both in India and also in the diaspora.
Great, thank you for that. Suman Kapoor, go ahead with your question, please.
Namaskar, everyone. I belong to New Zealand and a close worker with Satyaji, the speaker just before Chandra Mohanji, and have a deep insight in how the Hindi is working over there. There are two different Hindis, I can say. Hindi from people who come from India, or Hindi from the people who come from Gurmit countries, or maybe Fiji Island, or so that's a mixed, and probably Hindi from those islands is like Bhojpuri Hindi, and which is still in India very well versed with. So Satyaji, with that, whatever presentation he gave, I'm a close associate with him, with all the competitions and from last like 15 years. And I realized that essay competition is very much different. So just my comment on the Urdu language, because I am a founding member of Urdu Hindi Cultural Association. I would like to say that Urdu is being spoken by many people, especially people who come from Muslim countries, for example, Pakistan. Very, very closely they keep this language, and our Hindi is well preserved. It is well preserved, but basically with the effort of the parents. And we run Bharti Vidya Bhavan New Zealand, and I'm the chairperson. So I interact with those parents, and I'm really thankful. Some people are keen to preserve the language, our heritage language it is. And if they are not, then it is really threatening that our language is being lost. But some associations, they work very hard for that, but not very much support by the government to continue Hindi. So curriculum comes next, but first comes the survival of our language. So our people, those who are keen that our next generation should learn, they are conscious on each and every step. No matter what age children are, no matter where they are born, whether they are born in New Zealand or in Australia or in India, but they are continuously supported by friends, family, and community schools, of course,
Okay,
like
so
ours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. I'm not seeing any other raised hands. Dr. Balla, would you like to respond to Suman, or Mr. Sachadat, would you like to respond to Suman? She didn't really ask a question.
Yes.
It was basically a comment.
Sure. Yes. That's a very. I would like to make a comment, especially about Urdu and Hindi. And to some extent, maybe it's also a question, because I did some freelance work for the BBC and in Asian programs, and one of the things that you would notice is the sort of attention that that is post-colonial in India and Pakistan as well, in terms of how Hindi, how Hindustani becomes Hindi and Urdu. In other words, some vocabulary items getting prioritized in Hindi, and the opposite in Urdu itself. So there is some sort of attention in the one bridge that bridges this particular problem is the Bollywood. That's where you find that the strict division, if you want to call it, that is being perceived between the two languages is overcome by linguistic as well as artistic situational input. So one of my comment there is that while there is this particular separation in terms of how they're perceived or how they're used or how they're validated, it may also be helpful to look at in the interest of a larger survival. Some of these languages could be seen as compatible rather than as something separate. There's somebody else.
Thank you so much for that. I saw Mr. Satya Dutt's hand up and then down. I don't know if you would like to respond to Suman or make a further comment, but we do have a raised hand from Virendra.
Yes.
Viren, just hold please, and let's have Mr. Satya Dutt. Go ahead, please.
Who's going on first?
You are.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. On Suman Kapoor's, she is a very close associate of Hindi Language and Culture Trust of New Zealand, has been working together with us and coming to all our programs. Yes, there are two versions of Hindi anyway. That's one from India, and the other one is the Fiji Hindi, which is like a mixture of Gurmit and all those Gurmitias came from different parts of India, and that came together as one Hindi, Fiji Hindi. The formal Hindi is just same as the India Hindi that we have, and that is in the curriculum in Fiji, which is taught right from year 1 to university. But then Fiji Hindi is very common over there as well, in which there are hymns, bhajans, and even some kirtans are sung in that language as well. So which is very common. And coming back to the support from the government and looking at the other languages over there, the biggest challenge over there is that the government over here, the policy is that they give a lot of boost to the indigenous language, which are the Pacifica languages over there, including 2 languages from Fiji, that is Ratuman language and the Fijian language, the indigenous language. And when it comes to like the Hindi over here, government, as far as the what we are operating, we have not extracted any funding from the government. Comparatively, if we look at the same in Australia, the policies are very different. They give outright funding and support to all languages spoken over there, including even Hindi in all the other languages as well. So that's a big challenge over here. And as Bala has said, that these policy matters and all that should come in there to facilitate all of this. The other thing that I would like to say is there is like the influence of the Bollywood in into our culture and our language. And when it comes to like even in Bollywood, we look at the actors in the cast. They have all the dialogues and everything in Hindi, and they speak whatever if the Bollywood, the Hindi language, Hindi film. And then when it comes to like having other platforms, we see like being a master of ceremony, or in our weddings, or even in our puja. Now our puja is going, English as well, in English medium. And because I've heard that some of our pandits, the one who perform the pujas, they have started doing that in English. And as far as Ramayana as well, recital of Ramayana, that is happening in English. So there is a shift now from Hindi to going on to English, where we are there to survive with our own language. So this is another comment that I really wanted to make. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Viren was here. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing him again. Suman, I'll ask you to please hold. I want to say thank you very much to Dr. Bala and Satyadat. I want to bring on our next speaker, and that is Shabana Sharif. So perhaps if we have time at the end of her presentation, we will open up to questions again. And Suman, you can speak at that point in time, if you don't mind. Good. So Shabana Sharif is in the USA. She's originally from Guyana. She's currently working on her childhood memoir entitled Pugly. She is a finalist of the 2023 PEN Emerging Voices Fellowship. She has an executive MPA and a master's in education. She is also the co-founder of Jahaji Sisters. Welcome, Shabana. You can go ahead with your presentation.
Hi, good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. I will start. Hello, and the other audio. Just give me a thumbs up if you hear me pretty okay. Okay.
Yes, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Great. So I originally did this last night. The audio came out a little low, so you'll just see my head floating in the screen. So again, my name is Shabana Sharif. I am working on my memoir, my childhood memoir. It is entitled Pagli. Pagli is a Hindi Urdu word, which means crazy girl. First excerpt from Pagli. And it was a word that I commonly heard growing up. So if you want to know a little bit more about Pagli, feel free to visit my website, shabanasharif.com. And my handle for Instagram is rightgal. So I'm also going to fuse in excerpts from Pagli while I go into the presentation. The excerpts are related to. So in Islam, the excerpts are related to the presentation. So excerpt number 1 from Pagli, and this is in the chapter Bhojpuri. And I'm trying to minimize this. Okay, excerpt from Bug. So how come we don't know our Indian languages anymore? I asked. As a child, I wasn't aware of what languages my great-grandparents spoke. It died out in Guyana, my mother said, without skipping a beat. The Indians were responsible for not preserving their ancestral language. They allowed it to die out, or did they? So a lot of the phrases that we know as Indo-Caribbean, even if you're not Muslim, start out with the basic Sunni, Shia, which are the main 2 sects. Sunnah means of the Prophet. The Quran is our holy book, and Hadith is referring to the text related to the Prophet's life. Jummah is our Sabbath day, and that's the day that men are considered to, it's compulsory for men to go to the masjid. Meji was the term that we used predominantly growing up. Now Imam, the Arabic term for the leader of prayer, basically the leader of the masjid. Prophet Muhammad, when we refer to him, we say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which means peace be upon him. And the first Muslims that many of us might know were actually from the Fulani tribe in West Africa. And that's where the word Fulaman comes from. And it's not related to race anymore. It's just really focused on Muslims as a whole. The pillars of Islam, there are 5. And when you go to madrasa, you learn them with the Arabic Urdu words, which are Shahada, meaning the declaration of faith. Namaz, Salat, Salah, all mean the same thing, prayer. Ramzan is the Hindu Urdu word for Ramadan. And that's when we fast during the month. And people who fast are referred to as Rojadars. I don't really hear that phrase as much as I did growing up. Zakat is charity, and that's part of Sadaqah that was referred to as last week. And the last pillar is going to Hajj. If you were a male and you complete the Hajj, you're referred to as a Haji. If you were female, you're referred to as a Hajjin. For life cycles, there are three main ones in Islam. Birth, and after a baby is born, you'll have the akika, and that's usually a celebration where an animal is slaughtered, the baby's head is shaved. This can be done anytime before that child is the age of puberty. For the marriage ceremony, we say nikah for the Islamic ceremony, and walima is the celebration, the banquet celebration afterwards. For death, the term janaza refers to the funeral, and for Muslims specifically, we try to bury right away. The janaza is the Muslim funeral. The body is washed in the final ghusl. It's a way of cleansing the body. And this is usually done by close family members. And our mourning period is about 40 days, where then after the 40 days, we have a large Quran Sharif, which is an Islamic function. And we also use the phrase reading commonly, aside from Quranic function, Quran Sharif, or reading. Part of the life cycles, obviously, is getting married. So the nikah walima, the mohar is the amount of it. Well, traditionally, it used to be the gift that was given from the bridegroom's family to the bride's family. So the dullaha's family to the dullahin. More commonly now, it's kind of like the engagement ring, which is not compulsory in Islam. You don't have to give a ring, but it's kind of been adopted over time. So we see two different couples here, and they're both dressed very differently. One has like a more Western look with a hijab on, and one has a more Indian look. So growing up, my parents' generation, they actually wore white. Something that's happening is a resurgence of Indian culture in the Indo-Caribbean Muslim community is understanding that wearing red, blue, green, any color is okay, and it's not Hindu. That was something that was taught in the earlier generation. So both of my grandparents' generations, my parents' generation, a lot of them wore white. So this is something that's kind of interesting, that we are kind of going back to our roots, and wearing a turban, a dupatta, lenga, sherwani are all common. It's more of a choice. Before it was taught like you had to wear white. And this is something that's shifting, and it's a preference of, what you want to do.
An excerpt from Pagli in the chapter Moonlight.
So here's another excerpt from Pagli in Moonlight, the chapter Moonlight. In Guyana, I imagine the night before Eid al-Fitr being the most exciting night of the year for Muslim children. Neighborhood children gathered with their family and friends, using the twinkling stars as guides, all eyes to the sky, intently staring above, for our closest celestial object in the sky, the moon. Whoever first saw the moon would be referenced all night and the morning after. Islamic holidays, and these are holidays that are also people have off in Guyana. And I just want to clarify, I'm actually from Queens, New York. I live in Jersey. I'm not from Guyana. My parents are from Guyana. So if I do mistakenly say something about Guyana, please chime in later. So Yanabi is the Prophet's birthday, and that's a day that all Guyanese get off. Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, and Husay. So Bakra Eid is Eid al-Adha. Qurbani means sacrifice. So that's when we slaughter an animal, and that's from the story of Ibrahim and Ishmael. Eid al-Fitr, that's the celebration following Ramadan, 1 month of fasting. Husay is a commemoration of Hassan and Hussein, and that is done in Trinidad. It's no longer part of our Guyanese culture. And if you could see, there's a tajda there. So it's basically a small little mausoleum, similar to the Taj Mahal, which is in the other picture. And in that image, you could see that, there is a group of drummers in front of the tajda, and that's a procession. And across from that, obviously, is the Taj Mahal, which is not a masjid. It is a mausoleum with Shah Jahan and his wife Mumtaz underneath or inside. Kana means food. These are some common treats goodies that we have during Ramadan or after Ramadan and Eid al-Adha. So sirni is basically like our parsad. We just make it with butter. Vamazeli, the watery kind, and the cake kind. Mithai means sweetmeat in Hindi and Urdu, so that is the one on the upper right. And then we also eat pira, which is very common. Obviously, that's not only just for Muslims, but it is pretty common. Halal and haram refer to something being lawful or unlawful. So something unlawful for Muslim diet is pork. Something that would be considered halal is an animal being slaughtered in a particular way, according to Islam. Clothing. So in the first couple of images, we see the hijab, which is that white scarf. It is opaque. In Aliyah Khan's book, Far from Mecca, she has an image of her mother and her aunties, and they're wearing more of the sheer type of orni, which was normal growing up. Everybody had on an orni, not really a hijab. So this is something that has shifted over time. These girls are in an Islamic school. Another word for school is madrasa in Arabic and Urdu. And when I was growing up, going to the masjid, going to the madrasa on Saturdays in Queens, New York, I used to refer to my teacher as the Ustad. So Ustad Hussein, Ustad Muhammad. That term of Ustad, meaning basically guru, we no longer use, and we just say the English terms brother and sister, referring to our teachers. In this slide, we have our Samara hat. So the kufi that man is wearing are basically like the classic crochet kufi, and he's wearing a kurta. Another thing about the word kurta in kurti is actually the feminine version and kurta is the masculine. But in our culture, we basically say kurta for both. We don't really differentiate. So some other hats here. These four over here are referred to as takiyas. That's not a phrase that we actually use in the Caribbean, or I'm not aware of. I did remember seeing my Aja wearing this red fez, and he wore this black topi. So I remember hearing the word topi, but not necessarily takiya. Here's another passage from Pagli, and this is in the chapter Masjid. My Aja, my grandfather, rose from his bed daily and went to the sink. The wide rectangular sink meant for mopping and cleaning was used exclusively for another cleansing ritual, wudu. He wore a white cotton bottom and a white ribbed tank. His balding head was bare. He started washing his hands, right then left, cleaned his mouth, nostrils, then face, passed his right hand down his long white beard, and briefly tugged the bottom. Then he washed his arms, right then left, wet his hands, and passed water over his head to the back of his neck in one swipe, inserting wet index fingers into each ear and thumbs rounding the back of the ear. Finally, he washed his feet, right then left. He pulled a white kurta over his head, landed over his knees, and placed a white kufi with gold thread on his head. I laid on the bed with my cousin, watching his movements and intentions. He walked over to the mic, facing east to the Holy Kaaba, inhaled a large breath, and announced the azan. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and then it continues. Something that's interesting about architecture and art in the Indo-Caribbean and Indian culture is that we don't actually use the Arabic or Urdu terms. I'm not sure if they do in India, but I know we don't in our culture. So this is Jama Masjid in Queenstown, and this is Jama Masjid in Delhi, India. Both are the largest masjid in those respective countries, one being from Guyana and the other from being from India. And so you could notice that the minarets are both there. They both have domes. They have different types of arches. The Qibla is referred to the Arabic Urdu term for the direction that we pray in, which is in the direction of the Holy Kaaba. This is a great book that I really recommend for Muslims and non-Muslims alike. It is called Hassan and Anisa Go to the Masjid. They also have Hassan and Anisa Go to the Madrasa, and it's basically a child's view of going to the masjid. And I think it's really important to use the term masjid versus using the other term, because it's the term that we grew up using, and if we just continue adopting more Western words, we won't really have much words left that are from our ancestral language. Excerpt from Pagli referring to the chapter reading. And so I start off with talking about food. Food gets a notable mention. My next favorite part was collectively singing and rising for the Ya Nabi Salam Alaika, also known as the Ta'zim. It traveled with my ancestors from India to Guyana, then to New York. Gradually, this devotional song became controversial for the translated phrase, now stand for the prophet. Leaders interpret it to be blasphemy, and overnight we stopped singing. The sweetness of readings evaporated bit by bit, like the tazim, atar, and agarbati also began to disappear.
Okay, so the Muhammad Rafi version of the Ya Nabi Salam Alaika is probably one of the most popular. So here's an excerpt from Pagli.
So just a small note about the tazim, at least in my two families, on my mother's side and my father's side, it's no longer part of the Quran Sharif. We don't do it anymore. And I've actually spoken to other people who are not Indo-Caribbean or not Guyanese, and they said that it became a thing. It was a controversial thing, but people are still doing it from what I hear in other people's families, but unfortunately it's not in our family anymore. And it is seen as part of our Indian identity that is further being chipped away. Here's an excerpt from Pagli in the chapter Kuli. The intersection of low class and uncool was Kuli, and I was committed to not being a victim of overdressing, underdressing, or tacky fashion. New immigrants, like most of my family, dress Kuli. All signs of Indianness were Kuli. And this is using the term Kuli more as an adjective versus a noun. And for my last slide and last excerpt, I'm going to go back to the chapter Bhojpuri. My Aja only knew three things in English: your daddy, your mommy, and black man. Dad bellowed out laughter after the last word, smiling ear to ear the whole time. It was pride. His grandfather was rebellious. He didn't learn English, but he wouldn't prevent his children from learning the language of the new land, the language for upward mobility in education, politics, and income in the colony. Unfortunately, the trade-off was a loss of Indian identity and culture for future generations. It was stomped and beaten out. It did not die from the actions or the inactions of Indians, but of the colonizers. The British saw Indians as workers and not whole human beings. Preferential treatment was given to European adopters, including Indian converts and Chinese and Portuguese communities. What remains today of Guyanese Bhojpuri primarily relates to food, customs, religion, family relations. However,
thank you for your time. And
however, there are a few colorful words that remain, like charail, witch, korhi, lazy, and pagli, crazy, all derogatory, all female.
thank you for your
So I want to thank you all for this opportunity. Again, my name is Shabana, and if you want to know more about Pagli, a memoir, it's shabanasharif.com. It is unpublished. I am looking for an agent, and I thank you all for your time.
Excellent, Shabana. Thank you so much for sharing that and bringing the Muslim perspective. In Trinidad and Tobago, a lot of what you said is very familiar, at least to me, coming from a Muslim background as well. But I'm not too sure how many non-Muslims in Trinidad would recognize words. I mean, certainly they know the Azan, they probably know Wudu, and they know Sawain. You call it vermicelli. We call it Sawain. Kurma. You said mitai. We know kurma and mitai is a whole lot of halwa, malida, etc., etc. So it's interesting that you never lived in Guyana, am I correct?
No.
Right, but you were able to relate to these terms because it's used in your family. on your comment with respect to the Ta'zeem. Is your family going to a Sunni masjid, a Shiite masjid, or a Ahmadiyya masjid?
We're Sunni on both sides.
You're Sunni on both sides, but the masjid that they go to now is the Jamaat following an imam who is Sunni as well? Yes? Okay, because what I found is that with the Ahmadiyya movement, the Ta'zeem was not acceptable. And with many people who went to Ahmadiyya Jamaat, Ta'zeem lost its importance there. So that's probably something that you could look into in Guyana.
So it happened on our, obviously this, I'm Sunni on both sides. So it happened on both sides of my families, respectively, exactly like the same exact time, where it was just like considered blasphemy and controversial, and everybody stopped doing it.
So you should, Dr. Moritz Hassan Khan from Suriname has this interesting phrase. He said, with the Arabization of Islam in the Caribbean, a lot of things changed, including many of these Urdu words and our Muslim Indian practices as well. So thank you very much for sharing. We have Suman with her hand up. Suman, I hope you have a question for Shabana. Would you like to unmute?
Is there any effort for harmony of the languages, leaving the religion apart, but as a migrant, is there any efforts in the country to harmonize the relations as well as the language? I'm sure I'm able to express what I need to know, please.
If we're speaking specifically about the Muslim community in Guyana, the children who go to a Muslim school or Arabic school, they're learning Arabic. They're learning how to read and write Arabic. That's what I learned in madrasa. When I grew up, we were learning it kind of the Urdu way, but now I think kids are just being taught more the Arabic style. And then they're learning Arabic words, and then some of the words are Urdu also, but obviously most of it is just Arabic. My sister went to Muslim school, and it's the same thing over in New York. People are not learning Urdu, they're not learning Hindi, they're learning Arabic. And so,
okay, so no Hindi over there.
They're not, so whatever from like a cultural lens, like say, for instance, we say the word roti, we're not going to say flatbread, right? We're not transitioning to flatbread. We're still going to keep the word roti, but we're not learning new words. And then when it comes to anything related to religion, we are adopting more of the Arabic style. So we're not really saying Meiji anymore. We're saying more imam, right? We're not saying, we're not wearing, shalwar kameez, like beautiful, colorful shalwar kameez. We're wearing more of like, as Aliyah Khan referred to as the Gulf style fashion, where it's more like gowns. And you'll see people still dress up a little bit when it comes to weddings and Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. But when it goes to like regular going to the masjid on a Friday or going to the masjid during Ramadan, people are wearing more of that Gulf style fashion.
You are right, but like back in India, we trying to take the words as they are. For example, rail is a rail, train is a train. We have the Indianized version, and like that in Urdu also, whatever words we use commonly, it has automatically been taken in Hindi. Same way, just a casual way, what you say, what you do is embraced in that language in India. So there was a great effort for that, rather than deviating to a cliched Hindi, what we call. From Hindi, if you are using sadharan bolchal ki bhasha, the normal, your spoken language, the words are nicely taken in our day-to-day language, not just keeping very clished Hindi, which is pure Hindi, what we call Kadi Boli. Not each and every word is being used in everyday life the same way. We have in our college times, it used to be written on the board in India that phool todna mana hai. In garden, please do not pluck flowers, right? So there was a big wave came and the people said, no, 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 it is not Hindi. Fool is not Hindi. No, it's Urdu. So you people should write Pushp Haran Varjit hai, which was not very well accepted by us only. We said, no, this is fine. That fool todna mana hai. That everybody understand that do not pluck flowers. So this is the revolution happening all the time in language. So I'm just wanted to put this, if it is common in you people also. Back in your country, if there is a word which is common, like you said about roti, roti is roti. So we also accepted roti as a roti, but not the flatbread.
Okay.
Okay, so Shabana, I think what she's also asking is whether or not in Guyana you're aware of any words, any Urdu words which are being preserved, which is in the common context.
Aside from all the words that I mentioned?
Yes.
Well, I did say a lot of words. So
It's true. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. We have just about 10 minutes left, and I want to take a question from Varen very quickly. Varen, nice to have you back. You want to unmute, please?
Hi
Try
everyone,
unmuting
salam
one more time.
namaste. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Salam namaste, sastrikal, vanakkam. I'd like to give you all a brief history of South African language, and I think this topic is so important, and I'll tell you in why. In South Africa, we have mainly the indigenous people, of course, Zulu, but when the immigrants spoke Tamil, they were the largest Indian population, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, and then Hindi, Gujarati, and little Urdu, who are mainly the Memons and so forth. Our language, up to my generation, we all understood our mother tongue. My kids and newer generation don't. Of course, Bollywood, Tollywood, and Jollywood all help in promoting these languages because of the English subtitle. When our forefathers came, they all had Hindi, Gujarati, Urdu schools. And a lot of them were Vedic Arya Samajas because they were forerunners in fighting apartheid and so forth. And we would promote the languages and have competitions. Still up till today, the competitions were called Eisteddfods, dance, music, language, poetry, everything. By the way, to digress a little, Urdu is spoken in India and other countries, mainly as the beauty part of poetry. Most beautiful poetry in India too is recited in Urdu. Getting back to South Africa, most South Africans came from Bhojpur, which is Bihar. Bihar, Patna, a lot of them all spoke Bhojpuri. The death of our languages came from our own Indians who, because of our association of certain dialect of Hindi, we would consider that low class. Now, no one's talking about this, but that's the truth and fact. We had a term called Aili Gaili. They were mainly Bhojpuris because, like, if you said in Hindi, Ham Jaunga, or female Ham Jaungi, a Bhojpuri say Ham Aili, Ham Gaili, meaning I came, I went. So what would happen is when you would talk Hindi, people who say, you're talking kitchen Hindi. No, it was never kitchen Hindi. It was simply a dialect of Hindi that the other Hindus would put down and consider lower caste. Now, how that eventually translated currently is that Hindi schools started to speak Shuddh Hindi, which I was totally against. Shuddh means true, proper Hindi. But that's not correct, because the importance of this topic today leads one eventually, like we all have the goal, to connect to where we came from. And the way we connect is through our language. Simple things like a previous person said, my grandfather remembered 3 words. Or if you read the movie or watch the movie Roots about blacks coming from Africa, they held on to 3 or 4 most important words from the culture. So I urge everyone, if you're learning, think about how your grandmother, grandfather spoke. And then you'll know exactly from which Gao and which place you came from in Bihar. And you can connect to them that way. And of course, today, thanks to different media, our Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati, Tamil is all being re-promoted. Thank you so much. Wonderful topic.
Thanks so much for your contribution, Paran. Very, very valuable. I want to ask Mr. Satyadat. His hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Shabana, that is an excellent presentation, and I now know quite a lot about Urdu and the Muslim culture as well. Now, in your concluding remark, you said that unfortunately the trade-off was a loss of Indian identity and culture for future generations. That's a sad thing, and it is very common and it's true. This is what is exactly happening. Now, for us, Hindi Language and Culture Trust of New Zealand, and for our Hindi Language Week celebrations, we have one theme. It is our language, our culture, our identity. Hamari bhasha, hamari sanskriti, hamari pehchan. I think this is the key words that we should all work on to revive and to carry on with our language aspects. So this is very important, and that is the comment that I wanted to make. Thank you.
Excellent. Shabana, let me invite you to make your closing comments and you can reply.
Well, okay. I appreciate your comment. And it is also interesting that when you meet people and you say you don't speak Hindi or Urdu, you're not fluent in an Indian language, they gauge that as you're less than in terms of Indian. So I am 100% Indian on all my sides, and because I don't speak an Indian language, other Indians or even sometimes non-Indians will be like, oh, okay, well, are you really Indian then? You know what I mean? So it's just it's quite sad, right?
Yeah, and now your closing comments on the program.
Oh, thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, and I think it's a respectful program that we have here, and I applaud you all for doing all the work that you do. It's not easy.
No, thank you so much, and we really appreciate your presentation today and your participating. So thank you. Dr. Bala, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Yes, just one point that, if we want to maintain and survive and help in survival, one of the things we could, as parents or as a community, could point out is learning another language or retaining it is also very helpful, because there is proof that there is scientific evidence that bilingual or trilingual use helps to increase cognition and other facilities. So we need to take the scientific support for survival of the languages, not along with the cultural aspect, that it is important for survival of culture, but also it is important going forward to in a scientific way. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. So for any of you who would like your children to learn Arabic, Urdu, Bhojpuri, any of those languages within the first 10 years is the best time, because as Dr. Bala rightfully said, it does indeed increase cognition, and perhaps it's something that we need to look at, and we need to probably get Mr. Satyadat and they to share their curriculum with us so that it can be adjusted and utilized across the diaspora. Mr. Satyadat, closing comment, quickly, please.
Yes, Dr. Bala, I agree with you, and as the theory has all proved that bilingualism is the way to maintain the language and culture, and it is New Zealand is an example of this, as we have Tongan bilingual classes going on here, and we have Samoan bilingual classes going on here. We also have Maori bilingual classes going on here, and also just in last 2 years, we have had 2 schools over here which had started Hindi bilingual classes at year level, and they are extending. And I wish to get on to that as well, to work with the other schools where bilingualism can be used to learn language. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. So we will link up and we can share email addresses with anyone who is interested. So thank you so much for your hard work today to all of our presenters, Dipti Agarwal, Mr. Satyadat, Dr. Bala Subramaniam, Chandra Mohan, and Shabana Sharif. We really appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much. And now it's over to Shobi. Shobi, you're muted. Okay, good.
Thank you, Shalimar, for being a great moderator as always. Thank you to everyone for taking their time to attend and participate today. As was said earlier, this is a public meeting and it is being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Centre. Please feel free to contact ICC to publish your books and reports. Do remember that we are asking you kindly to give us your suggestions as well as a donation. Please contact Dr. Mahabir for details on this. Thanks to the advisory and planning team led by Dr. Kumar Mahabir. Thank you also to our IT manager who works behind the scenes, Ravin Ram Singh, who has been recording the program and will upload it to our website and to YouTube permanently for posterity. And also to Mariam Mohammed for producing our TikTok videos. Our topic next Sunday will be how to find your ancestral family in India. Sounds very interesting and I look forward to that. Please visit our YouTube channel to see our past recordings. I'm Shobi Ali, living in London and saying goodbye.